Okay, Debbie, anytime that you want to begin, then we'll.
Okay, that's great. Hi, everyone. I'm Debbie Patrick, a volunteer with Citizens Climate Lobby, and I'd like to welcome you all from Turning Green, as well as our facilitators. We're really happy to have this chance to show you an overview of how CCL volunteers work with their members of Congress and how you can participate. Citizens Climate Lobby is a nonpartisan grassroots group with almost 200,000 members that focuses on national climate solutions. Every year, hundreds of volunteers go to Washington, D.C. for about 4 days in June and in November to sit with their members of Congress and staff and ask for support on a carbon fee and dividend legislation. Lately, we've been having to do this by Zoom, but in person, it's an absolutely incredible experience, which Noah is going to tell you more about. Today, we will explain what a typical lobby meeting looks like. We won't have time to go in depth, but there are tons of resources on our website and lobby training videos that you can access, as well as lots of in-person support here in our Marin chapter and when you get to Washington. But first, Dave is going to give you an overview, or maybe it's Al is going to give you an overview of the Energy Innovation and Carbon Dividend Act.
Hang on just a second. I was just going to break in. I'm Dave Kane, and I'm your housekeeper. And so I'm sure all of you are very familiar with Zoom. You're all on mute. You can unmute yourself with the lower left button. There's a participants panel. There's a chat panel. This meeting is being recorded. If you choose not to be on the video, you can stop the camera down at the lower left, but we certainly welcome and want to see you all. Thank you. And Al.
Great. So just a quick background here. When we're talking about climate solutions, obviously the problem is a big one. Scientists are telling us that we need to cut emissions in half by 2030 and get to net zero by 2050. That's a pretty big lift. And so we want to put the world's biggest engine to work in helping us accomplish that. And that's the US economy. And the way that the US economy can be deployed to solve this problem is through price signals. And the price signals that got us to where we are today are basically a signal that fossil fuels are cheap, a cheap source of energy. And that's why our entire economy, in fact, the entire world economy, has been constructed on the basis of this dirty energy source. But we're going to, through the power of economics and price signals, we're going to change that dynamic by putting a fee on fossil fuels. And the Energy Innovation and Carbon Dividend Act is exactly that. It's a policy, a national climate legislation tool to change the pricing structure of our energy choices. And it starts with a fee on fossil fuels at the source. So the source is going to be the mine, the wellhead, or the port, and typically the entity that would be paying the fee is going to be a fossil fuel company. And so the fees themselves are going to be a steadily rising schedule that starts at $15 a metric ton. So in a sense, we're measuring the pollution associated with the fuel, and then we are translating that into a fee. And then as time moves on, it's going to increase by $10 a year. And so that's going to be rising steadily. And so investors and consumers and producers and manufacturers, every participant in the economy is going to see a new set of pricing incentives. They're basically going to see rising costs of fossil fuel use, and then their rational economic behavior is going to kick in, and they're going to start substituting clean energy for that fossil fuel energy. So it's a really simple concept, but it's one that has pretty broad and nearly universal support among economists and folks who help us determine the best policies for efficiently allocating resources. One other thing about the fee that's worth mentioning, when we project out what can be accomplished with this schedule of rising fees, actually it's going to allow us to accomplish what we need to from a scientific perspective. We are going to be able to get to net zero by 2050 just with this piece of legislation. Now, that's not to say this is the only piece of legislation we would need in a portfolio of climate solutions, but this one is powerful medicine, and it is a foundational policy, and it should be the one that's the starting point. It's a no regrets first move in trying to address the climate crisis. The second part of the policy is what we call carbon dividends or carbon cash back. And the idea here is that the revenues raised from these carbon fees, the use of them is prescribed to be distributed out back to households. And this is a powerful solution that allows this to be a durable policy. There have been instances when taxes have been imposed on fossil fuels that have led to public unrest, like the Paris Yellow Vest movement. But here, by returning the cash to households, they project that 70% of households, basically all lower and middle income households, will actually wind up with more cash in their pocket after paying out higher energy costs than before the policy. And that's what makes this durable and highly equitable. And then the final piece of the policy is what's called a carbon border adjustment. And this is an adjustment at the border to ensure that we're not creating an incentive for all of our industries to move overseas where fossil fuel use is not going to be taxed. So the carbon border adjustment would apply to adjust the pricing of high energy intensive products that are being imported into the United States, like steel, aluminum, concrete, and other products, as well as lowering the barrier for exporters from the United States of fossil fuels to jurisdictions that don't have a carbon price. So this is going to create a strong incentive for other countries to have a carbon price that's similar to what we have in the United States. And it's going to create a level playing field for US businesses. So it's a very comprehensive, very powerful policy. And that's why there's such a strong grassroots effort to get this passed through Congress.
Well, I see all the faces, and it's so glad to see all of you in gallery view. You can go to gallery view with a little click up to the upper right. And Al, if you would introduce our we call our keynote speaker today, someone who's walked the walk. Al?
Yeah, so Noah Sari has been on the steering committee of the Marin chapter of Citizens Climate Lobby for a number of years. Noah is currently a student at the University of Oregon. And so we're very privileged that he can join us today and share his experience, which I think was a very good one, where he lobbied his member of Congress in person in Washington, D.C. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Noah to give us his impressions of the lobby experience and what it feels like to exercise the most direct form of democracy, which is to show up and ask for what you want.
Thank you so much, Al. And can everyone hear me? Get a thumbs up if you can. Awesome. And sorry, I'm on my phone. I'm actually at work. But yeah, I'm really pleased to be here and talk about Citizens Climate Lobby and what I did. So last November, I got invited to go to Washington, D.C. to lobby my member of Congress. And it was a big step for me. I'd never gone on the plane by myself. So it was a lot of new experiences. And it was just really fulfilling. Being able to talk to your public officials about climate policy is one of the most important things you can do, I believe, in terms of activism. There's lots of ways to be an activist, but I think being able to talk to the people that implement these policies and put them through Congress is really important. And they want to hear from you. They want to hear your voice. And you just need to speak up. And yeah, being able to do that with Citizens Climate Lobby was an amazing thing. And personally, I talked about the fires in California. I got directly impacted by that. And right now in the Bay Area, we actually have some pretty bad air quality. It's not too bad now. Hopefully it does not get worse. But it was pretty bad. The air quality index was around 500, which is unbelievably hazardous. And I had a close family friend who lost a family member because of the fire. So I think everyone in California and other places have been very impacted by climate change. And I talked to my elected official about that, and I told them what had happened, and being able to establish like an emotional connection with them is really important, as well as talking about the climate policy and the grits of it, because you need that human connection. That's one of the most important things. And just being able to tell your story about it is very important, because I believe as of now, most people have had experiences with climate change, especially in California and with the Marin Citizens Climate Lobby. So yeah, I just want to tell you about it. And I encourage everyone to talk to their members of Congress. It does not have to be in Washington, D.C. It can be local, but I implore you to do it, because it was one of the best things I've ever done. I met great people. Actually met a basketball player there too, which was pretty cool. Pretty cool experience. But yeah, it was definitely nerve-wracking at first. But they set it up in a way that was just, it just flowed. It was really nice. And yeah, I was really lucky and privileged to be able to do that. And if you guys have the time and the money to do so, I believe you should definitely do it, because it's a huge part of a society, and just being able to talk to your elected official is great. And yeah, thank you.
So what I'm going to do is show a few photos of lobbying in progress. So you can see Noah here.
I know.
No, without his mask.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did not have many photos of myself besides that one. But my friend's a good photographer, and so yeah.
We should have known I had some of this.
And that's all of us. Yeah, that was Jared Huffman's office. I think that was right after we spoke to one of his aides, I believe. And that was really important, because he is my member of Congress. He represents me, and that was a great experience. And everyone who was with me was amazing. And it just was a really, really fulfilling experience. And I felt important, and it was kind of cool. And you do not have to know everything about climate policy to do this. You just have to be passionate about change. We know climate change is here. We know something has to happen. And there are lots of different ways to go about this, but a carbon fee and dividend is one of the most, if not most important things. It's not the silver bullet, but it's a huge part of climate policy. And being able to just talk to your elected official about that is very important. And I was very lucky to do so. And here's some more photos. I think the one with all the Post-it notes, that was Representative Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez. And there was a lot of notes from people just saying thank you, and for things she's passed and stuff she's done. That's a photo I took. It was a nice day, some nice clouds. And then on the bottom right, that's me. And we were throwing up, I forget what sign it's called. I'm just gonna say the serving sign, but we were talking to Senator Hirono, and we actually talked to her in person, which was very nerve-wracking, but really, really interesting. She was really sweet. And yeah, it was really great.
Why delegation?
Yeah, she's.
And they talked.
I'm going to show some other scenes from Washington, D.C. Of course, as Noah mentioned, that we lobby both virtually because of COVID, but we're looking forward to actually lobby in person in November. And what happens is you bring your lobby team together, and there are people who know each other and don't know each other, most interesting people you'll ever meet from all over the country. This is a lobby team that's starting to develop their strategy, which we're going to do a little bit later in our mock lobby exercise. And so you meet several times to develop a strategy and develop roles that people will play, and to practice and dry run your presentation. It's a total team effort to succeed. And as Debbie mentioned, we give lobby training. It's something that you can use not only for lobbying about the climate, but being a citizen for the rest of your life. And then over at the Capitol, there's so much going on in the hallways. We almost take over the Capitol, although that's not a nice thing to say anymore these days. But you meet in the hallways and tell stories to each other about the lobbying. This member of Congress, our team lobbied Devin Nunes, and if you're in California or maybe nationally, you know he's an arch conservative. And so it's just so much fun. And you meet in the cafeteria, you see all these lobbyists in their suits and everything. And we're just citizen lobbying going around, and other lobbying groups. And developing and practicing our pitches. And finally, we get into the lobby room and meet with a member of Congress. And essentially, it's a conversation and a dialogue you'll never forget. I'm in this picture with our member of Congress, that's Anna Eshoo, and this is the day she agreed to become a co-sponsor of the Energy Innovation and Carbon Dividend Act. And I was a complete neophyte. I didn't know anything about what was going on. And the lobby team from our area came together, and they've been working with her for several years, actually, to come to grips with climate change. And she did. It's fantastic. And at the end of the lobby day, we all get together. And by the way, there's usually a huge party at night.
Drink.
Okay. So if we're ready, the next thing is to go to our breakouts. So the breakouts is something that you may or may not be familiar with, but what we're going to do is divide up into groups. There's going to be 3 breakouts, and you'll have a facilitator there. And what we're going to do is organize ourselves like it's the first meeting at the Capitol. And we're going to establish roles. We're going to develop strategy. This is all going to be at about a 500-foot level, but you get a sense and a feeling for what it really is. And it's just so cool. So Abe, if you're ready, we're going to be going into our breakout rooms.
You may not have to rush.
And how do you want to select individuals? You want me to go ahead and, if you give me their names, to move them?
We can automatically assign them to, is that allowed? Or you can put five in each or so for each group?
Sure.
Just randomly. Just give us a minute here and we'll get you all lined up into our breakout groups.
Are you going to keep track of time? Or are we okay?
No, not really. I think if we're starting it, we have 10 minutes extra.
Okay.
And I have to head out. My shift starts soon, but it was great to talk to all of you, which was in
Thank you.
person. But yeah, I really implore you guys all to do it. It's a really great experience. And yeah.
Bye, Noah.
Bye, Nora, thanks. So,
Yeah, of course. See you guys.
You want me to start with Brooke, Daniel, Casey, Lena, and Kat in the first breakout room? I can move them.
Do it. Yep.
All right. Don't be scared. Al is in there.
What's going to happen is you'll have to say yes to enter the breakout room, and then you'll have a team member, a facilitator, who'll get you going.
Okay.
I notice I'm assigned to a room, but I cannot move myself there.
Abe is going to get you there.
Okay, great. Thanks.
So
I was hoping I could carry myself, but.
Henry, you want to go to Henry, right?
Yeah.
All right, I'm moving you to, see, where are you? Let's see. Oh, he's gone. Okay. So we got Daniel. Over to room 1, there's 4 there. Casey, assigned to room 1. Okay, now let's see how many people we have left. How about Lena, Kat, Ella, Yvonne, and Grace going into room 2. I think it's a nice room as well. Debbie and Jake is there.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Lena, Kat. Okay, and then we've got Ella. We're not going to have anybody for you, Dave. I don't know. Yvonne? Yeah, I think we have enough people. Okay, there's 5 there. So how about who's left? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 left.
I'll take them all.
All right. So Grace, 2023. You look young for 2023. Cameron, Ivana, and Rachel, and Addie, I'm moving you to room 3 with Dave. He's a nice guy, I've heard. Okay.
You can move Dave there too.
Oh, Dave needs to go there too?
Yeah, and me too.
All right, hold on. And Grace. Where's Dave? David Kane. I don't actually see you, David. Oh, wait. Maybe I should just do this more. No. You can't move yourself?
I'm going to move myself.
Yeah.
Well, hi, everyone. I'm glad you joined me. We're still getting some things sorted out, but before we get into planning our lobby meeting, introduce myself. I've been with CCL about 7 years now. And one of the things that I said is lobbying a member of Congress or even lobbying the mayor of your local community is a supercharged event. It's just so much fun, particularly when you're lobbying as a team. And so we're forming a kind of team here. And as Noah mentioned, you don't have to be an expert in climate change. It is important to have some basic understanding of climate policy, but anybody can learn that. You don't have to be a scientist or economist or anything else in order to have a good feel for what we think is a solution to the problem. It's not the only thing, but it's important to have a national program in place to turn the corner on climate change. So lobbying and passing legislation is a key part of that. That's a little bit about me. I live in the Silicon Valley near San Jose, California, out there. And where are you all from? Cameron? You're all on mute, by the way. You can unmute if you want.
I'm from Rochester, New York, but I go to college in Brunswick, Maine.
Oh, cool. Great. Ivana?
I'm from Colombia, and I'm living in Medellin right now.
Oh, I have a son that's, so that's great to have you join us. And when we do lobby,
Thank you.
we also bring in people from all over the world. I've had lobby team members from Africa, from Argentina, all over. It's really fun. Mariana.
I'm also from Colombia, but I live in Bogota.
Okay. Welcome. Grace?
I'm also from the Bay Area, but I'm living in Los Angeles now.
And Rachel?
I'm from Virginia. I live in Northern Virginia and I go to University of Virginia.
Oh, great, great. All right. So I'm going to show some slides and we're going to sort of walk through a process. The lobby, in this case, a lobby exercise is for a member of Congress in my area. His name is Ro Khanna. And we're going to get a little bit of background about the philosophy and approach for lobbying. And then we're going to go through the exercise of assigning some roles, and we'll see how it goes. Then I'm going to step out of role and I'm going to be Ro Khanna. And then so you have an opportunity to lobby me. So just a minute here, I'm going to share some slides. You see, can you see the slides? Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. So what's the methodology of lobbying? It's all about relationships. And in fact, you would say one thing about CCL, it's about relationships. It's about people who are members and activists at CCL, and they come from all walks of life, all ages, all backgrounds from the United States and all over the world. So we build relationships with each other. And that's what part of a lobby team is, building relationships, often with people we don't even know. But the other part, of course, is this process of lobbying. And a lot of people think, well, lobbyists are, oil companies and big industry, and they throw money around. It might surprise you to know that lobbying, citizen lobbying by ordinary citizens is 6 times more effective. 6 times more effective than all those guys from the big companies. And the way we build relationships and the way we lobby is through respect and appreciation. And you can kind of read ahead of me, appealing to the best in our members of Congress and being for something. And being for something is really important for climate change because we have a lot of being against climate change. We have a lot against industries and polluters and a lot of things that are part of the problem. But if you're for a solution, it surprises members of Congress. You're not there to protest. You actually say, if we did this, we could actually start putting climate change behind us. And of course, the effects of climate change are apparent everywhere. And I like to say the wind is at our backs, sort of not for a good reason because of all the fires, the droughts, all of this is going on in California, but all over the world. So being for a solution is a tremendous advantage and distinguishes us from all the other things that are going out there. Okay, so the methodology is always positive, not negative, and always about people-to-people relationships. Now, we usually go in with a lobbying plan, and that's what we do. That's what we'll be doing as we go through this exercise. And it's developing a strategy around that relationship. The thing to bear in mind is that we've been lobbying in CCL, these members of Congress, since many of them even got into office. And we keep book. We keep book. What that means is we keep track of everything they do. We know them very well, and we have volunteers who are full-time liaisons with those members of Congress. So you can kind of read through here, and there's a couple of things that pop out. The name or the word called ask. Anybody have an idea what the ask is and what we mean by ask?
Requirements, questions?
It's what we would ask the member of Congress to do. And so the conversation is really framed around the notion of having something that we were requesting as their constituents. We are voters in their area. We want them to do, because they actually work for us. But they may say no to that ask. And so there's a secondary ask, which is usually easy and quite within their ability to say yes to. So this is part of the thing. And I skipped the second point. And the idea is to begin the whole meeting with a note of appreciation, something that you understand that member of Congress, in this case, Ro Khanna, has done that is positive for the environment or positive for sustainability or positive for climate change. Okay, and so as a group, we get our discussion points together. And so we work out through roles, who's going to say what. And so we can pass the baton from one member of the team to the other. We'll talk about the roles here in just a second. okay? The idea is to not ask or make comments that get a yes or no question. And this is really important. It's open-ended questions to get the member of Congress to expand, to give their impression. So you say what, how, why, these kinds of questions are leaders to get that conversation going and to build a relationship. Okay. Now, we're going to come back to this, but in our exercise, which we're going to do shortly, there's an appreciator, there's a leader, there's a number of roles, and so we'll put everybody in a role. And I'm going to come back to this before I introduce our member of Congress. Okay. We have a member of Congress who is a progressive. He's a Democrat. He actually co-sponsored the Green New Deal, one of the first co-sponsors, the Green New Deal. And he is currently working to support a ban on drilling of natural gas and oil on public lands. This is a big deal. It's not necessarily what we support, but it doesn't make any sense anymore to be drilling for new oil. Doesn't make any sense. And so one suggestion for to ask is to sponsor the Energy Innovation and Carbon Dividend Act. Now, by the way, it's not the only bill in Congress that we like. Here's where Ro Khanna stands in his own words, First of all, he's a believer in climate change, and you can kind of read ahead of it. What I really like about this is what is in italics, a proactive approach from both parties to bring together issues, in this case, climate change. So Ro Khanna is one of these people who's a Democrat, who's very progressive, but he's not reluctant to reach across the aisle to the other side, because we need everybody, including conservatives. And you can see that the second one really speaks too much to all of you who are really 21st century adults, and I'm a 20th century adult. But he very much is looking out for the future, not today, but for tomorrow. There's other things that he may be concerned about. One is, what is going to be the impact of the Carbon Dividend Act on regular people? You understand that it gives dividends, but it also has a tax. So the question is, in his district, and this is District 17 in California, are people who are the marginalized and less economic mean could be better off? And what you can see is, to the left, most all of them actually come out the same or are largely unaffected. Not so true of the high wealth groups who actually have much higher carbon footprint. So it's equitable. It's equitable. So that may be a question that he brings up. He's also concerned about environmental justice. He's very concerned that people will be left behind. And so there's environmental justice is a very big topic. I'm sure it's very big with all of you. And so the thrust of this is just transition. What is a just transition to a clean energy economy? And there's another bill that's been introduced in the Senate called 23085 that he may not know so much about, which is actually puts a price on carbon, but it's targeted towards people of less economic means. So this is a really key. So the question that we have to ask is, so the question I have to ask, let's see if I'm doing this right, is what is going to be our strategy? And so what I'd like to do is I'd like to enter someone in who, will be our leader. Do I have any volunteers of someone who wants to be the leader for our lobby team? It's okay, it's going to work out just fine.
I can do it.
Grace? All right, Grace, you're the leader. Now, the leader actually just introduces everybody else, and it's like the orchestra conductor. So that's your role. So I'm looking for someone who could be the appreciator.
I can be the appreciator.
Who is it? Who's that? Mariana?
Mariana, yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm getting down here, I'm skipping one. Who's going to be the asker?
I can be the asker, Cameron.
Cameron? Did I spell it right? Maybe not. Let's see. Who's going to be the time monitor?
I can do the.
Oh,
Raquel? All right. Who's going to be the note taker?
I can be Ivana.
Ivana. Who did I leave out? Are we all have roles?
Addie said that she is unable to like speak into the microphone because she has background noise, but she can participate through the chat. So whatever way is best.
So I'm not seeing all of you. Who is it that can't?
Addie, Addie.
Okay, Addie, you are an observer because after we get outside Rokana's office, we're going to have a person who, and by the way, you can all participate, but an observer is the person who's standing back and looking at the big picture. Okay, so let's start our lobby meeting. I'm not sure how much time we have left, but let's, I'm going to step out of role. I'm going to be Rokana. And the first thing the leader does is how much time, Congressman Kana, how much time do you have? And so I'm going to respond. But the other thing is to introduce very briefly, and each one of you give a really quick overview of why you're there in his office. Not a long story, but a really short story. So we're ready to go? Okay, well, I'm so glad that you joined me. You know, it's very unusual to have people who travel clear across the country from my district in Silicon Valley to visit me in Washington, D.C. So it's a great pleasure to have you. Before we begin, let's see. Grace, you're the leader. Let's hear from you.
All right. Hi, Senator. Thanks for having us. I just wanted to ask, first of all, how much time do you have for today's meeting?
Oh, okay. You know, something just came up. The majority leader has called a special vote, procedural vote, that's right down in Congress. So I'm going to have to, unfortunately, limit this just to 10 minutes. But I'm arranged with Adam to, when you're back in your district, we'll have a full district meeting devoted to climate change. So 10 minutes if you can. Okay.
Oh, thank you so much. We'll keep it definitely short then. I'll introduce us quickly. We are from Turning Green, the nonprofit organization. We're based in the Bay Area and we work on issues to make a healthy and more just planet. So my name is Grace, and then we have Cameron, Ivana, Mariana, Rachel, and Addie. And we're so excited to talk with you today. So I'd love to pass it off to Mariana if you would want to just jump right in, because I know we're short on time.
It's perfect, Senator. So we're going to talk about.
I'm not hearing you. Are you as an appreciator? Mariana?
I think she's frozen.
Okay. So one of the things, I'm going to step out of role here. One of the things that I really appreciate is the fact that you are concerned about environmental justice. That is something that's really close to my heart. And I understand that you're looking to provide a just transition to a clean energy economy. And I think that's just wonderful. Now I'm gonna step back and roll. Yes, absolutely. One of the things that's missed is the fact that we can be charging ahead, and all of the people who have have wealth, who have upper middle class, are well positioned to buy into the clean economy with electric vehicles. What about everybody else? And so I'm so glad you brought that up. And I also like to work with people on the other side and get my conservative members of Congress, Republican, engaged as well. But thank you. I really appreciate, and I think that we can work together. All right.
Thank you. That's amazing to hear from. And so we have something we'd love to ask you. So I'll pass it off to Ivana.
Sorry, I think I'm the asker, but I apologize. I feel like we went over it kind of briefly, but I believe that we are asking you, Mr. Senator, to support I have no idea which act it is. Is it the same?
This is fine. This is how it goes. No, it's the Energy Innovation and Carbon Dividend Act, which is a revenue neutral approach to addressing climate change, where you have a gradually increasing price on fossil fuels, and the proceeds are returned directly back to the people. And so we feel that this is a very progressive, fair, and effective way of addressing climate change. And tell me, let's go back into role. So you asked for that. You know, we've had some discussions at our regional meetings, our town halls, and certain members, a number of members from CCL have brought that up. One of the things that I've had difficulty with about the Energy Innovation and Carbon Dividend Act was one provision in there. My senior legislative aide pointed this out, that there was a regulatory pause. It was something that in effect said, we're going to put a price on carbon, but we are not allowed to make any regulatory changes while these market mechanisms make effect. Well, the good news is I've heard that in the current Congress, that provision has been eliminated. That's been eliminated. But I have to be frank with you. I'm not a climate expert or nor a policy. I'm still window shopping. So I appreciate you're here. I'm giving it careful consideration. I understand that there's almost 80 other members of Congress who have co-sponsored this bill. And so I have to say, I'm tempted. Are there any other bills or other things that I can do in the meantime to get behind? And so you would say, Cameron, you would say, well, Mr. Khanna, I want to point out that there's a companion bill that's pending in Congress as well that you might like, that we also support. And this is the Save Our Future Act. The Save Our Future Act also puts a price on carbon, but what that bill does is it's specifically targeted to support, and money is available, resources are available to help people that are affected by pollution. And so this might be a bill that you could support. It's not available in the House right now. It's a Senate bill. But if you work with your Senate colleagues, this is something that you could really get behind. So I'm Rokana, and Rokana is saying, wow, I didn't know that. And you say, well, you know, there's actually 4 different carbon pricing bills, and they're different in various ways. But the key point is to get a price on carbon because it's economy-wide. It affects everything. And we all have to get on board. And so I'm back here as Rokana, and he says, well, I'm interested in what some of other of you think. Ivana, do you have any input? Particularly, I understand that you're from Colombia, is that right? What are the effects of climate change, and what is your view on what we're doing here in this country?
Yeah, so specifically in Colombia, there's a lot of negative impacts of climate change, and mostly because there's a lot of factories, and also there's a lot like mining, and 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 yeah, there's a lot of things that are going on right now that cause a negative impact, but also the government has implemented, for example, a system where only certain types of cars can go out each day. So that helps. And I really enjoy seeing how other countries manage with like those same types of problems. So I think that maybe something the US can do to improve with that would be implementing a same system as we have here in Colombia. And also maybe we can learn from what you do there, so we all can collaborate and get to a point where we have two sustainable countries that can work hand in hand.
Well, I think that's very important because this is a global problem after all, and we can learn from each other. We don't do a lot of things right in this country from a climate point of view. We're still learning, and what's going on in Colombia and all around the world provide important lessons for us. There's some other people I haven't heard from yet. Rachel, would you like to weigh in on what we've been talking about here?
I think that what Ivana presented was really interesting, especially about how people, there's certain days that certain cars can come out. And one issue that I think is prevalent is about what particularly like college students can do, because that's a big demographic of the country. And we may not be using vehicles, but there's a lot of things that we should be doing on campuses to address this. And then especially when we come out of college, knowing what steps we can do about transportation, about the emissions that we're creating and everything coming out. I think that's something maybe even education should focus on when we're in college.
Well, I think that's important. Education, of course, is important to me. I spent a lot of years in higher education. And the thing that I want to impress on you as a member of Congress, nothing is more impactful than people and young people like you who really are the ones that are most at risk for what's happening to the climate. So your effort to come and see me today, share your thoughts and your recommendations are things that I take very seriously. And you have to know that your effort in engaging in lobbying is not only affected with me, it's affected with any politician, because you are our future. Yes. Cameron? No, it was Mariana. I want to thank you for the note of appreciation. I wondered if you had any thoughts on expanding your remarks.
I think that Mariana is in this breakout room since she had problems with her Wi-Fi, so she had to join another.
Oh, I see. Okay. So let's step back a little bit, and I've sort of lost track of where we are on the timing, but amazing as it may seem to you, this is how it really is. And of course, you're sitting in the office and you have all of this power, and you have all of the tradition, and you have all of the seriousness that goes on in Congress. So I'll bring us all back together, and hopefully you found that the mock lobbying experience was a positive, something that you're going to put on your checklist of something you want to do. So Al, if you can wrap up with a few final words and comments and our own call to action.
Yeah, we wouldn't be practicing what we preached if we didn't show up with a primary ask of you today. And our primary ask of you today is that we have a limited window of opportunity here with the Senate working on a reconciliation bill. And with a reconciliation bill, that can pass through the Senate with 51 votes. as opposed to bills that have to overcome the filibuster requiring 60 votes. So we don't know how long this window of opportunity is going to remain open, but we know that this is a special moment in time. And so we're asking everyone who supports this policy action to call and email their members of Congress. And you can see in the bottom right-hand corner is the link you can go to be led to a button that says call and email my senators. And you click that button and it's very easy. The whole process takes about 15 minutes. And with this, and they also have material there that you can share this call to action to people in your network. And this is what activism looks like. Highly effective, high impact activism is calling on your elected officials, specifically telling them what you want to do for you and your generation, and saying, okay, it's go time. And now is go time. So we urge you to go to cclusa.org/Senate and ask your senators to put a price on carbon in their reconciliation bill.
And not last but not least, get more information about CCL. We'd love to have you join us and be CCL members. There's all kinds of flavors of your political advocacy, and I say advocacy versus a political activist. And so you can find a role, you can make a difference. We'd love to have you join us in the chapter in your local areas. This is some information about where you can make your first, put your toe in the water and get like an overview of CCL and learn more about the legislation we support. And finally, this is my pitch. Again, there's nothing like lobbying members of Congress. And so I would invite you to come out, join us at our Washington, D.C. conference if you can make it. The conference itself is terrific. It's an international conference. There's just all kinds of wonderful people, but the icing on the cake is that lobby day, which is typically on Tuesday. We train you up, we organize, we get into mock lobby sessions as you prepare to meet your member of Congress. It is just a fantastic experience, bar none. Okay, so that concludes our presentation today. Your lunch and learn, it's been fun sharing it with you, and we look forward to meeting you again.
Carol.
Bye all. Hope you join us in Washington.
Yeah. If you want more information, Brooke can reach any of us, and don't hesitate. We're happy to jump on the phone and tell you more about how you can get involved.
Yeah, and also quickly, I can't guarantee it, but we were able to cobble together some frequent flyer miles and some Airbnb type stuff for a couple of people who wanted to go a few years ago. So, you know, we might be able to help out if money is an issue, okay?
And Brooke, thank you so much for giving us this opportunity. It's been fun.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you all.
Yeah, thank you guys for coming. If you want to send me either the presentation or the links that were in the presentation to like call and email the representatives and then sign up for like info sessions and stuff like that, I will send that to all of the interns.
Great.
We'll do it.